back in the days before anyone had experienced the simulated 3D environment of virtual reality. I waited in an empty conference room until the door opened and Lanier walked in. He was tubby and unhealthily pale, with wild reddish dreadlocks and eyes that showed the whites all the way around. His tie-dyed t-shirt was faintly grubby. Lanier explained his invention to me. Virtual reality, he said, was an entire world existing inside the computer with which you could engage as fully as you chose. This was the original high-octane version, not the watered-down one that would later hit the computer software shelves. When wearing the full virtual reality suit, complete with headphones and goggles, you would be completely plunged into the world of your choice, be it a castle, a desert, a moon station, or a submarine. You could choose a body to wear, a lobster, for example, and then move it as if it were your own. So if you looked down at your arm, you would see a lobster's claw. Your choice of body was as infinite as your choice of setting. You could be a warrior, a space monster, a princess, a demon, whatever you liked. Once these initial decisions had been made, you were free to play. You existed inside the virtual world as fully as you did in the real world. You could turn corners, walk, run, leap over walls. And here's the real kicker, other people could meet you there. If someone in Tokyo logged on wearing similar apparatus, you'd see their virtual self appear in the setting with you, looking however they'd chosen to appear. You could interact with them even though their physical body was across the ocean. And then, if you got bored, with a sweep of a virtual paintbrush, you could erase your entire world and start over. Dump the moon station and set up a mossy bank by a river. Get rid of your demon outfit and change into a hawk. There was no limit to the possibilities except your own imagination. Needless to say, the military was interested. After I was sure that I'd understood the unbelievable parameters of what Lanier was telling me, I asked the pressing question that had just occurred to me. Aren't you worried that people will get addicted to this virtual reality? If they can look any way they want, in any world they choose, why wouldn't they just stay inside the computer world forever? Lanier shook his head. They won't, he said, for one reason, texture. Texture? I asked, baffled. I can make the world inside a computer look any way you want it to look, he went on. I can create any scenario, I can make things move the way you want them to move, but I can't put texture inside a computer. He knocked on the wood of the meeting table. I can't make you feel the hardness of wood or the softness of leather or the wetness of water. At least, not yet. He cracked a radiant, lopsided, mad genius grin. And it turns out, he went on, that we need texture. We crave it because we're biological animals. And that's why no one will stay inside a computer forever. He sounded vaguely regretful. I thanked Lanier and drove back to the newspaper office to write my story. The story ran, I went on to write other stories, but his words about texture always lingered in my head as something important. I didn't understand exactly how important until many years later. I worked at the newspaper for 5 more years, and then went into radio, diving cleanly into the surreal, icy plastic world of American media. The day that I was hired as a talk show host at San Francisco's #1 radio station, my new boss leaned towards me and shook my hand over the polished oval table in the conference room. He stared at me with hard blue eyes. I want you to dance on the high wire, he said. I want to feel like you're always about to fall off. If you really fall off, I'll fire you, and I can't tell you where the edge is. Good luck. This radio station had dominated the ratings for decades, and this particular job had only come open because my predecessor had thrown himself off the Golden Gate Bridge at 3 in the afternoon in the midst of busy traffic. Willfully closing my eyes to the implications of this fact, I cleared the dead man's sticky desk, threw away his photographs, emptied his littered drawers, and brought a small spiky pot plant to settle any restless, lingering spirits. I was on my way. Every night, as thousands of San Franciscans streamed home from work, I drove the opposite way, into the